you people attending today. So I want to welcome you today to CalRecycle, the chat with CalRecycle. I am CalRecycle's Communications Director, Maria West, and today we are talking about ways that we can support and provide you support on 1383 implementation for the local education agencies for grades K through 12. And today we're going to do a few different things. We're going to share some of CalRecycle's resources for teachers and schools. We are going to talk about share tables, edible food recovery, and then Grades of Green will offer resources that support 1383 compliance. So we'll get started with my office. Again, I head the public affairs office as a communications director for CalRecycle, and we've just sort of wrapped up an education and outreach campaign that's really a government way of saying an advertising campaign, but we've developed a number of assets, and I think the most important of which is the iRecycleSmart.com website. So we're going to share that with you today. We also have this in Spanish that we'll show you briefly at the end. But there's a number of different pages. It's a great page for schools, for teachers to use. There's lots of different assets here. But today we're going to focus in on the toolkit that we provide. There's a lot of videos and some things that local jurisdictions can use in their own advertising, education outreach, public service campaigns. But we want to show you part of this toolkit today that focuses in on schools. So this is when you go on the toolkit, for some reason we just pop directly to the toolkit, but there's a space at the very bottom that has a link to tools for teachers, tools for schools, I think it is. And I wanted to start also by saying this is our new mascot. CalRecycle's new mascot is Turner, the recycling turtle. He helps you turn stuff into other stuff. And we really saw with our focus groups that he made people think of the turtles that we've seen who've been victims of pollution, plastic pollution, like the turtle with the straw on the nose, or the six-pack ring that was around a turtle in the 90s and the shell grew around it. But we saw that this turtle helped people feel positively about the reasons that they need to recycle and reduce their waste. But at any rate, here's that button for tools for schools. So go to iRecycleSmart.com, go to the toolkit, and you'll find this page. And if you could scroll down, Christina, there's a poster for elementary schools, a poster for high schools. There's a page that's an interactive tool that just to show people how they can reduce their waste, what we call cutting your trash footprint. And you can just, it's not a game or anything, but you can just hover over the different pluses and see some of the things that you can do in your everyday life, from reusable water bottles and tote bags to reusable food containers, repairing things, donating, and repairing your clothes, I think is one that a lot of people have gotten away from. So from there, let's just pop down. We have a lot of links to videos that we've created. Most of these would be more appropriate for middle school and high school age. We do have some of the advertising campaign. There's a videos that are a song, or a couple of different ones with songs that show recycling smart by shaking out your containers, and then food waste recycling, which is really focused on making the connection between food waste and climate change. So we're calling it California's Food Fight. And that's most of what we have available right now. But our next step at this moment is to, here's the posters. Know before you throw. So this is just sort of some stuff on what can be recycled and what can't be. We also have a page on iRecycle Smart that shows people general rules on what is recyclable and what is not. And then we have a page, it's the what can I recycle? We're going through this fast because we only have a few minutes here. So you can see here's what's recyclable, and then what you can take to a collection site. Many people don't know you can recycle paint, mattresses, carpet, and when you buy a new mattress, it's by law they have to offer to pick up your old mattress, or you can drop it off if you're not buying a new mattress. And then here's some of the things that are in contention, depends on where you live. And you can find exactly what may or may not be recyclable. And then we have a link. And Christine, I'll let you, oh, here's what's absolutely not recyclable. Don't put those batteries in the recycling or the trash, because they're starting fires throughout the entire country. It's causing millions of dollars in damages. So when you click through to local recycling information, which is on the navigation bar, this is very kind of simple way of doing it, but you can look up either your town, or if you're in an unincorporated county, you can look up the county, and it will take you on a link to the page on their website that has the rules for your local program. So that's just the clearest way that we could at this moment, with the reporting that's available, help people find those local rules, since it just varies depending on what different cities and counties and their haulers can sell. So what we really wanted to get today is your feedback. We'd like to get not so much necessarily feedback on what we've done so far, but we'd like to find out what would be useful to you. So we want to share a poll today. And I know there's someone who's going to share that in a moment. But we want to share a poll. We basically want to know what type of content would be useful to you. Here's the poll. And then what types of delivery methods: video, interactive web pages, worksheets teachers can print. So please vote on as many of these as you would find useful. And this will help guide us as we create more assets in the coming year. We're really interested. We want to know what you want. And then if you're interested in being on a mailing list, we're going to work on a listserv for our schools. But if you'd like to email us with specific questions or suggestions, or you'd like to join the mailing list, please send your name, your school and city, and then what your email address, which would be great to include in the email, even though it'll be your return address. And then we can put you on our mailing list as we get more assets available to you. And then also, if you could include any, the grades that you think would be useful to target with the assets you're requesting. So I think that that's it for us now. We don't have time for questions right now. Joining me today is Christina Files. She is the CalRecycle Creative Services Manager. Looks like videos are very much in demand. So yeah, if you have any questions, Christina's going to stick around for the upcoming presentations, and she'll be able to answer questions or just send them directly to us. And if you have any specifics on videos, we're starting to create shorter and shorter videos. Unfortunately, with platforms like TikTok, the collective attention span for America, especially younger folks, is getting shorter. So we're trying to create really useful, very short videos, 15 to 30 seconds. But please let us know what you will find useful for the work that you do with students. And I think that that's it. So I will now hand it back over to, I think, Michelle.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, Maria, the inbox where if people have questions, is it irecyclesmart@calrecycle.ca.gov?
Yes.
All right, exactly. Perfect. All right, well, thank you again for everyone joining. It looks like we have 470 people on this call, which is fantastic. So today we are focusing on our local education agencies, and Darren's going to be putting up the slide deck for us. We are going to be answering questions. The questions are going to be through that Q&A feature, which will be at the bottom of your screen. If you can't see the Q&A pane at the bottom, you may not have the most up-to-date version of Zoom. So if you don't see that option. So I believe there's going to be something put in the chat that has more information on that. Once called upon, please unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation when asked by CalRecycle staff. You may also submit feedback, peer share requests, and panelist questions to our SLC inbox, which is slcp.organics@calrecycle.ca.gov. And if you could please use the subject line SB 1383 chat with CalRecycle. If during any of these questions you cannot unmute yourself or we're not able to get to your question, please also submit it to the slcp.organics@calrecycle.ca.gov. Our first presenter is with California Department of Education. Mia, I'm going to have you go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mia Bertacci. I'm a child nutrition assistant in the California Department of Education, Nutrition Services Division, School Nutrition Programs Unit. I'm here today to provide you with some helpful resources and guidance related to school food waste reduction and recovery. My colleagues, Gurjeet Baraya and Tara Mass, are also on the webinar today to assist with any questions you may have. So I'll be focusing specifically on share tables and leftover food donation in the child nutrition programs. Let's get started by discussing some background and policy. Firstly, I want to start today's presentation with a note about the content. Today's content reflects the current U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, and California Department of Education, or CDE, policy. A recently enacted Senate bill updated the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act to expand liability protections for donated food. Both the USDA and CDE are aware of the updates to the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act. The CDE will keep program operators apprised of any changes to existing policies. With all that being said, let's move forward with discussing regulations and policy affecting share tables. So schools can play a big part in keeping food away from the landfill and getting it to those who need it most by setting up share tables and/or food donation programs. Share tables and donation of leftover food are allowable practices per the USDA, as well as the California Health and Safety Code. Per section 114079 of the California Health and Safety Code, a local educational agency may do either or both of the following to minimize waste and reduce food insecurity. Provide sharing tables where food service staff, pupils, and faculty may return appropriate food items and make those food items available to pupils during the course of a regular school mealtime. Allow food placed on sharing tables that is not taken by a pupil during the course of a regular school mealtime to be donated to a food bank or any other nonprofit charitable organization. Continuing with section 114079 of the California Health and Safety Code, regarding the types of food and beverages that may be donated or returned to share tables, donations of food or food made available through the share tables may consist of prepackaged, non-potentially hazardous food with packaging still intact and in good condition, whole uncut produce that complies with section 113992 before donation, unopened bags of sliced fruit, unopened containers of milk that are immediately stored in a cooling bin maintained at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and perishable prepackaged food if placed in a proper temperature-controlled environment. Now we'll discuss share tables and go over some share table best practices. Share tables are a great way to reduce food waste while feeding hungry kids. So what are share tables? Share tables are carts or tables where children can place unconsumed food and beverage items they choose not to eat or drink. These tables provide an opportunity for other children to take additional helpings of food or beverages at no cost. So what do you do with the remaining leftover items on share tables at the end of the meal service period? In compliance with applicable state and local health and safety codes, food or beverage items left on the share table may be served and claimed for reimbursement during another meal service. Another option is to donate the leftover share table items to an eligible organization with 501c3 tax exemption status. So now I'll go through some share table best practices. So the following are some best practices when using share tables. Ensure there is clear signage. Clear signage at a share table station encourages students to return allowable items to the correct container. Assign a share table monitor or place the share table near the end of the service line. Share table monitors can provide oversight to encourage food safe practices, monitor holding temperatures, and assist students with returning allowable items. Similarly, placing share tables at the end of a service line rather than in the cafeteria allows for better supervision of the share table by food service staff if assigning a dedicated monitor is not feasible for you. Separate foods by holding temperature. So consider setting up separate areas for cold items, hot items, and items that do not need temperature control. Organizing foods in this way will control temperatures, help students return and select food, make cleanup and handling of surplus foods easier. Be sure to update your standard operating procedures and hazard analysis critical control points plan. The CDE Nutrition Services Division strongly recommends that school districts include the guidelines for share tables in their food service operations HACCP plan and provide proper food safety and food handling training to employees. And finally, prior to implementing or reinstituting a share table, the CDE strongly recommends conferring with your local environmental health department. Local health and safety regulations and recommended protocols can vary from county to county. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, school food service had to modify meal service and share table operations, including the use of individually wrapped items, single-use plastics, removal or modification of self-service food bars to reduce or eliminate student contact, and removal or modification of share tables to reduce contact and limit shared meal items. As we are transitioning back to quote-unquote normal operations, please be sure to check with your local environmental health department regarding re-implementation of share tables and the like. There may be county-level regulations or best practices that should be taken into account. So now I'll move forward to discuss school food donation. Per the USDA, any food prepared for the child nutrition programs or CNPs that is not consumed may be donated to an eligible 501c3 tax-exempt organization. Schools donating to a nonprofit or charitable organization are protected from liability by the federal Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Act, as well as the California Good Samaritan Food Donation Act, when food is donated in good faith to charitable organizations. If a school has leftover food on a frequent basis, menu planning and production practices should be adjusted to reduce leftovers. However, the USDA recognizes that due to unforeseen circumstances, CNP operators will occasionally have leftover food. Program operators should exhaust all alternatives permitted by program regulations and state and local health and sanitation codes before they discard food. Options include using leftovers in subsequent meal services, offering share tables, or transferring food to other sites. When it's not feasible to reuse leftovers, staff may donate excess food to a nonprofit organization, such as a community food bank, homeless shelter, or other nonprofit charitable organization. Schools may donate allowable items left over at the end of meal service. Items may come from the kitchen or service line or from remaining items on the share table. USDA Food Nutrition Service guidance for school food authorities that receive federal funding is stricter than state food donation legislation and must be adhered to when donating food from the CNPs. Thus, donations from CNPs must go to a charitable nonprofit organization with Section 501c3 tax exemption status before being distributed to parties in need. Please note, leftover food donated to an eligible nonprofit charitable organization cannot be claimed for reimbursement. Similar to share tables, CDE recommends that you confirm allowable donation practices with your local environmental health department, as local health and safety regulations and protocols may vary from county to county. This slide lists some CDE resources that are applicable to today's presentation. I will drop the links to these resources in the chat if you would like to take a look at them. Please reach out if you have any questions regarding any of the content covered in these bulletins. So the use of share table bulletin and guidance on donation of leftover food in the CNP's bulletin include much of the information that was included in today's presentation, including best practices and policy guidance. The plate waste prevention and the CNP's webpage provides resources, best practices for preventing plate waste, such as implementing offer versus serve, scheduling recess before lunch, and ensuring kids have adequate time to eat. The food pantries and schools webpage provides resources to school food pantries created in partnership with nonprofit entities to promote food security. And the food consumption outside of the service area bulletin allows students to save certain food items for consumption outside of the meal service area after mealtime. Contact information is available on the slide, including a CDE email address that you can reach out to with your questions. Please reach out if you have other questions that are not answered in today's webinar. That's a good email to to have in your back pocket just in case. Okay, and that covers everything that I have a presentation for. So I will kick it back to Ray to introduce the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Mia. And thank you to the CDE team for being on this call. We will be having a Q&A session after our next panelist. So please keep the questions coming in utilizing the Q&A feature. Another reminder is that this is being recorded and will be available on the department's YouTube channel. So if you do request any of the resources or slides, we'll go ahead and get that information out to you once we have it cleared with our AV services department. So with that, I pass it to Noelle and Grades of Green.
Thanks, Ray, and hi, everybody. Such an amazing turnout. Thank you all so much for being here today. I am with the nonprofit organization Grades of Green, and today I'm going to be introducing some free resources and materials that support SB 1383 compliance through our organization that are available to every grade K through 12. And I am going to discuss a little bit about our mission first. We educate and empower school-focused environmental sustainability through hands-on experiential learning programs. These are available to students and educators as well as a district program. We help support and coordinate student and educator-led project-based learning, including toolkits, campaigns, and different resources to help achieve your district's environmental goals and specifically support organic waste reduction and recovery goals. Because of our successes in our project-based experiential learning programs, last year we were honored as a California Nonprofit of the Year in 2022. Next slide, please. So this is our program pathway. We have 4 different programs, and on the y-axis or the left axis, you can see each program is catered to an individual school age group. So first we have our elementary, then we have our middle and our high school aged learners. So regardless of their grade, they can find a place in our accessible pathway of programs, all at no cost. Students and educators can both be leaders on their campuses through this pathway of programs, and we can offer lunch toolkits throughout all of these different age groups. Our RISE program caters more towards our middle and high school aged students. And then our SOAR Leadership Academy caters towards our high school leaders, while our Unite program offers different organizations across the world to connect over environmental learning and climate change. So kind of to begin a little briefly here, our launch program is our Eco Toolkit program that is useful for flexible scheduling and offers a huge variety of topics. These are primarily for educator-led programming, but are also flexible for student-led programming as well. They're bite-sized lessons that help students and educators begin their involvement in environmental leadership. And for middle and high school age students or educators, RISE is an amazing campaign year-long that helps them dive into their specific environmental interests. Over the course of the year-long program, the students themselves design and implement a project of their choice using various resources and guidance by our Grades of Green advisors to make an impactful difference in their community. With SOAR, this is designed for our green heroes who are so passionate that they'd like to take their intensity to a new level of intensive experiential learning to partner with local businesses to create different sustainability recommendations and opportunities to be introduced to green collar jobs and to activate those sustainability solutions in a different environment. So Uplift houses all of our different program offerings. This is our school district's partnership opportunity and is the umbrella for our program opportunities. With a district-wide coordination, we can implement these programs, including organics and SB 1383 support, customized to each district and your school's specific circumstances. Next slide, please. Getting a bit more into the Uplift offerings, we understand that each district has unique needs based on their size, their location, if you're an environmentally justice challenged community. So we do consultations and we provide these customized programs and assessments to address and support your green goals. So we partner with districts at the top level, but our programs are implemented through our student and educator-led leadership. So this way, you can have a menu of different offerings to account for your education requirements, as well as teacher and principal presentations and trainings, so that our educators can be providing the right information to our students, and the students are also getting the same information. We also provide a recommendations report and implementation plan for these after consultations with your specific district to account for all of your green goals, specifically SB 1383 support. And again, all these programs are accessible to students and teachers at every grade level and are super flexible to your unique circumstances. Next slide, please. Additionally, all of our programs are NGSS aligned and designed specifically to engage and empower students to lead recovery programs across all grade levels through hands-on programs and peer education systems. So first, in a district partnership, we do a consultation and goals identification, specifically identifying your goals for SB 1383 compliance. We conduct an eco assessment and an organics assessment to figure out your baseline for sustainability programming and add to that, supplement that. We understand that some schools are already doing donations, but hasn't yet reached a district-wide program. So we work at every step of the implementation process to support your compliance with SB 1383 and other different green goals that your district might have. After kind of meeting with you and our fact-finding mission, we provide that recommendation report. Not only do we provide the recommendations, but we provide the implementation of those recommendations through our programs. And throughout each program implementation period, whether it's through our flexible launch programs or our year-long RISE campaigns, a Grades of Green advisor is there specifically assigned to your team and your campus to offer support throughout that implementation period and to tackle any of those hurdles that you might encounter throughout implementing such a vast program at your school systems. Not only that, but we provide impact tracking. So from each program launch and RISE, impact forms are required as a completion of the toolkits or the programs. That way we can track your metrics. We also provide impact and we also provide stipends. So that way we incentivize the wrapping up of these programs with the additional metric reporting. And then at the end of our programs, we always like to celebrate our green eco leaders and kind of share that success with other teams, replicate those best practices, and really show that the students and the educators can be leaders and really just need the tools to make these programs successful. Next slide, please. Again, I'd like to reiterate that all of our programs are at no cost to participants, to our district partners. Our Launch and RISE programs actually offer a stipend. So with our educators completing launch toolkits, they can earn between $250 stipends. Educators who facilitate a RISE campaign team can earn $250 to $500 stipends as well. Throughout all of our program periods, the students are entered in a grant competition to win a $1,000 eco grant that they can use towards furthering their project, expanding their project, or tackling a new environmental issue that they've been inspired to encounter. And on the right, you can kind of see how our stipend program works. For each toolkit, there is a certain amount of leaves dedicated to that program, so that once you complete the required amount of programs or toolkits, including those wrap-up forms, which include the metrics tracking, then you can earn that stipend. So there's the incentive for the completion of the project, the metrics gathering, and then you have your reward at the end. Next slide, please. Going back to our pathway of programs, I'm going to go into the toolkit specifically and the RISE program specifically, but just offering this visual so you can kind of have a reminder of what each program is offered to and for. And here I'm going to go into the Launch and RISE. All of these programs include worksheets, videos, and additional resources, guidance by our Grades of Green advisors, and additionally partnerships collaboration that we can offer or through your existing partners. Next slide, please. So our Launch Toolkit program is our Eco Toolkit featuring project-based lessons for K-12 students and educators. So first, students or the educator would choose an Eco Toolkit, they gather their team, then they follow our step-by-step instructions, use our readily made resources, and then celebrate their impact. Each toolkit houses the instructions, the videos, and the resources on the specific environmental subject, offers flexible timelines, and a one-to-one Grades of Green advisor available to answer your questions via email or meet with you if you run into those hurdles, as I mentioned. All of our launch and rise materials are NGSS aligned and are designed for specific intention for classroom use via students and our educators. So again, to reiterate, all of these include the resources, the step-by-step guides, and then you can earn your stipend as well. Next slide, please. Specifically with SB 1383 compliance, we have different toolkits that support this, these goals by name. So these include composting at school, our lunchtime sorting toolkit, our trash-free lunch toolkit, and our campus food rescue toolkit. Grades of Green is always looking for new opportunities to design new toolkits as well. So you can always check back in and see if there's additional toolkits. We're working on a garden series as well. So we can really help set up those garden spaces, compost at school, lunchtime sorting, and all of our other offerings. So in these kind of examples of the direct programs, you can see how our stipend program is working in action. For our more intensive programs like composting at school, you would earn 4 leaves. Because of that amount and intensity of the program, you would earn a stipend. With each program, again, impact and metrics are tracked via our wrap-up forms, which are required to earn that stipend. Next slide, please. With our RISE Climate Solutions campaign, again, this is designed for enhanced leadership with student-led year-long projects that create a maximum local and global change. RISE is also geared toward middle and high school range because of the intensive leadership required, a little bit more so than the self-led launch toolkits. So in this program, students first gain an in-depth knowledge of their chosen subject, including an environmental justice component, by conducting research and understanding the issue they'd like to address. They then gain a plan, design the plan, and identify their target audience, including tracking their tasks. Third, these teams implement their chosen action and complete their reporting tracking impact forms throughout the program period. And then again, we always like to celebrate our successes and let their green be seen by other organizations and inspire kind of that green movement. Next slide. So again, for implementing SB 1383 compliance, one example of a team that is extremely active in our programs is the Mary Bragg Green team, who I'm proud to show you all today. They have a team of over 150 students. These students deal with lunchtime sorting and waste diversion, but additional RISE projects also that we have seen include school-wide composting, peer education on waste sorting, organizing food donation programs, among others. So we are especially proud of our Mary Bragg team, especially because they include students, staff, educators, and they are really leading this campus change. All these students and educators need is the tools and guidance to be successful in accomplishing green missions, and they take those and they run with it. Really what we're here to do is catalyze schools to achieve what we already know that they're capable of, just providing those implementation tools and programs specifically to reach that goal, as well as different incentives and tracking. Next slide, please. So through our launch programs and RISE programs, students have demonstrated an immense success in reaching their program goals to reduce waste and divert edible food. In only the year 2021 to 2022, our program year, our students collected over 5,000 pounds of plastic and garbage and diverted over 100,000 pounds of waste from landfills. These green leaders just needed an opportunity to develop their capacity to act towards climate change and create real tangible impacts by using our tools, resources, and our advisors. So by collaborating across the entire district, students and educators can gain an enormous capacity to reach compliance with SB 1383 while gaining stipends and being an active school community, creating that community culture of sustainability, while also engaging in a global good. So by making users responsible for kind of peer education and enacting our users who are the ones diverting these trash and, the users that are outputting the waste, by empowering them to lead this change, they really are able to address any issue that they can put their minds to because they develop those leadership strategies. So not only are we addressing SB 1383, but we're developing lifelong skills for addressing additional issues regarding climate change. Next slide, please. Here are some additional figures of just the year 2020 to 2021. our student impacts. We track different metrics across our programmatic capabilities, but you can see here that figure that I mentioned, over 100,000 pounds of waste diverted from landfills. That's just baffling. And students are the ones leading this change. So I think that with Grades of Green, we really believe in the power of mobilizing our young generations as well as our active generations through our educators and our districts. Everyone has a role to play, and we're here to provide the resources for you to engage in that role. So thank you so much for having me. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to email me. I will take some now, but if you have some programmatic specific questions,
Sorry about that, Noel. You got muted just there at the end.
oh, sorry, I was just going to pass it back to you, Ray, and say thank you again.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you. So we will go into the Q&A session now. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Perfect. Okay, as a reminder, we will be utilizing the Q&A feature. CalRecycle staff will go ahead and call on you. We'll ask you to unmute yourself. Please state your name, affiliation, and ask your question. Our first question is from Josh Rogers. It appears it is for OPA. Josh, you're unmuted on our end. If you can go ahead and state your name and affiliation and ask your question.
Hey, good afternoon. Josh Rogers, Director of Nutrition for the Greenfield Union School District in Bakersfield. My concerns are that a lot of this is going to be pushed to, what I'm hearing is this is going to be pushed to teachers for them to teach in the classroom. Teachers right now are taxed with educating students, and they do not have any extra bandwidth to add this type of stuff into their education. We can't even get nutrition education into our schools because they don't have time to teach that. So it's just, you're adding one more thing for us to do for teachers, which is we're gonna get a lot of pushback on.
Is that a question for me? Sorry.
Is your question for CalRecycle's education team or for Grades of Green, Josh?
So that question came in during the OPA.
Okay.
Application.
It's a really valid point that teachers and everyone in schools is stretched really thin. We're trying to create resources that are going to be practical to support the efforts and initiatives that are already happening, knowing that local education agencies do have requirements to set up campus recycling programs and composting programs, food scrap collection. We want to help assist with providing materials. So at whatever level, these can be helpful and useful, we want to provide them. So we definitely understand that. We'll keep that in mind as we continue to create resources. We did create an elementary school and a middle school poster to help that can be simply placed over bins in cafeterias or classrooms to help guide students. We've got a coloring book that is just simple, basic recycling information. What our research during our campaign showed is that most people learn about recycling in school. Most parents learn about recycling from their children coming home from school with recycling information. In our focus groups, everyone knew what the 3 R's were because they learned it in school in California. So we know it's a great opportunity, and we're just here to help support that.
Josh, did that go ahead and give you a little bit more context or clarification?
Yeah, it did. But, my thing is that, schools, they're, this is going to create a lot more issues for us. My big issue is that right now I looked at our organic waste for our local city, and I don't know if they're accepting organic waste. So we haven't started doing organic waste program, because it's very unclear. So there's no clear answer of yes, we're accepting organic waste. I don't want to start, having kids sort stuff out and then it just go to the landfill. So that's why we're waiting from the city to give us more direction.
That makes sense.
Josh, as well, Grades of Green does provide consultations to kind of help you troubleshoot and tackle these issues at your district. So if you are interested in helping, implementation at your full district and kind of need some more guidance on those issues that you're encountering, Grades of Green is here to help you. So if you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to have further conversations with you about that.
Thank you.
And Josh, I didn't capture what city or county is your school district?
Kern County, Bakersfield City.
Perfect. Okay. We'll also get your contact information, and our team will also do a follow-up. Because to your point, I'm not exactly sure where they're at with implementation, particularly for organic waste collection. So let's do a follow-up and get you set up with all that information as well.
When I asked 6 months ago, there was nothing in place. So
yeah, we'll find out. Different jurisdictions are in different kind of phases with implementing. So we'll connect and figure out what's going on. Thank you so much for being here. So appreciate it.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just making that note, Kara, for our follow-up. The next question is also for OPA, came from an anonymous participant. They ask, do we need prior approval to use the download Turner coloring book?
No. All the resources that you can find on iRecycleSmart.com are free to use for schools and jurisdictions. There's quite a lot there. There are some guidelines if you're going to use our advertising materials and you change them. So you can take any of our ads, any of our materials and add your logo. So whether that's a city or a county logo or a school logo, you do not need our permission for that. If you want to use Do Your Part, iRecycle Smart as a slogan on a completely unique piece that you create, or if you want to add Turner the recycling turtle to something that you create, you just need to fill out a simple application. That's also on the toolkit page of the iRecycle Smart website. If you have any questions or want to talk through any potential case uses, feel free just to email us. And that's iRecycleSmart@calrecycle.ca.gov. And we can definitely talk through. We want to be as helpful and supportive with how you can use the resources.
Thanks, Christina. Our next question comes from Shira Lane. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Will you go ahead and state your name, affiliation, and ask your question?
Yep. Hi, I'm Shira Lane. I'm with Atrium 916. We're a creative innovation center for sustainability. We're trying to kind of really make the connection between art and sustainability. I think that is really important with Prop 28 that has come by, and that there will be funding for arts. Can there be a cross intersection between the two that will help not only schools kind of fund this, but really kind of making art as part of the solution? This is kind of what we're doing. And just for sake, like, is it interesting to have a programming come to you, so teaching, so it's out of that, or is it something part of the school? So we're just kind of investigating and asking questions. Thank you. If anybody has any information on Prop 28, that'd be, or the intersection, or if there's something.
Sure. Thanks so much. I am not familiar with it. I don't know if any of our panelists have any feedback or anyone participating in the webinar today. If you can unmute and share. If not, sure, this might be something that we all need to noodle over.
Yeah, I'm really curious. You know, I Googled it when I saw the question. What I can tell you is that with CalRecycle's social media strategy, we have really just dove headfirst into promoting upcycling and reuse. And so we're looking at a lot of social media influencers, and we post a lot of crafts and things like that that are just interesting ways, to upcycle. We've been promoting refill stores. We're about to go film in a local thrift store that has art supplies that you can purchase. So I think that there's definitely something here. I'd be really curious about it. And if there's any way that we could help develop, materials for it, I think it would be very exciting.
Oh, thank you. So we are producing a TV series that will air on PBS, actually, that will go on recycling. So it kind of goes into the different, waste and, different aspects. We would like that. Is that something that we could make available, so that way schools could use? I'm just trying to provide as much as possible. If so, please reach out to me. I'm happy. I'll share my email. Thanks.
Shira, thanks so much. We will definitely follow up, and definitely can both, I think, Christina on the iRecycle Smart page, as well as on our 1383 local education page, as well as we could also shoot it out. Our CDE partners are great at helping us get information out to the school districts, as well as our messaging out to local jurisdictions. So Ray, Michelle, who should we make as point in our team for collaborating with Shira going forward?
You can just go ahead and loop both of us in. Both Michelle and I are on our schools team here, so we can go ahead and make whatever connections are most appropriate. We'll go ahead and put our email addresses in the chat.
Yep, thanks.
All right, next up, we have a question from Casey Fritz, Marin County, for the CDE folks on the call. Casey, I'm trying to find you on this list and just found you, but I don't see. Well, unmute if you can, please. And if you're no longer on the call, then I'll just go ahead and read the question. Gosh, that's really peculiar. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read Casey's question. Casey is asking, does CDE recognize the California Good Samaritan protections that apply to individuals, or only federal regulations that apply to donations to 501c3s?
I can take that question. So for the food and beverage items that are prepared for the child nutrition programs, the USDA policy is that those items are provided to a charitable nonprofit if you are donating them, in lieu of donating them to directly to the recipients in need. So we follow the USDA guidance regarding the foods and beverages served in the child nutrition programs, which would mean you'd have to go through a nonprofit charitable organization for those donations.
All right, sounds good. Thanks very much, Mia. Next up, we have a question from Rick Cleary with SCOOE. Give me just a moment to let you unmute, Rick. It's a very long list of participants today, which is fantastic. All right, Rick, you should be able to unmute now and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, my question is do we have any flyers that are more geared towards schools and offices rather than just residential services?
So the two posters that we mentioned on the iRecycle Smart site are designed for classroom and cafeteria posting. We are definitely looking at developing additional materials that will be more relevant. So rather than showing more household items like, pictures of the large milk jugs, we opted to show materials that you would normally find in school lunches as well as, in classrooms. So that was, something that we developed. If there's additional things that we could help with, we would love suggestions and would definitely take them and see what we can do with them.
Okay, yeah, because it's just when I'm dealing with the staff members in like a large building, we have different office supplies and different cafeterias and things like that. And so just trying to find a process that seems to be consistent is what I've been looking for. And I just haven't been able to find it. I find most of the information actually on residential, but not so much business, offices, or schools. So thank you.
That's helpful. Generally, the residential information is going to be what the hauler is collecting, the acceptance list, but obviously it's not always, tailor-made for the specific items. So if there are specific items that you want to email to us, we can definitely help out with photography, sourcing images, and do some custom pieces that might help.
Hey, Christina, thank you so much for that. I wondered if Noelle has anything else, any resources to share as well.
Yes, definitely. Through kind of our Grades of Green programming and our toolkits, as well as our RISE program. Additionally, the Uplift program, which I manage for school district partnerships, we work directly with waste haulers. We work with waste management. We're working with ware disposal. We're in conversation with CalRecycle consistently about different regulations and understanding and providing clarity. So we definitely would be a great resource for anybody that's looking for specific school materials geared toward your hauler's specific accepted materials. We work with schools regularly to provide that kind of specific custom information for your school district via what your hauler is accepting, and also supporting your green goals as well as SB 1383 compliance. So definitely reach out if that interests folks. We have expansive resources and we're always looking for new ways to collaborate and best support your goals. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that tie-in. Our next question is for CDE, but anyone can jump in. It's from Suzanne Morales. Suzanne, if you could unmute yourself, state your name and affiliation, and ask your question.
Yeah, my name is Suzanne Morales, and I'm with Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District, the school district in Southern California. My question for the CDE really is there an opportunity to utilize items that end up on a share table back in the SBP or the breakfast and or lunch program? As a regulation, as part of a complete meal, students must take a fruit or vegetable. Most of our fruits and vegetables are IW pre-packed, if you will, and end up back in the share table. Students are not taking those. We're having a really hard time. We work with some local food banks, et cetera, that they don't want these fresh vegetables. There's too many of them. And we would like to be able to put them back into our program to offset some of those costs because children have to take them. So it's not a matter of, overproducing. They have to take them in order to be compliant. So I'm looking for an opportunity, and I don't know if that's a federal requirement or if it is a state requirement that we're not allowed to do that, or if that has changed. The last time I looked, we can only donate it, if you will, to another program, which would be like our child and adult care food program, where we do at-risk suppers. But we can't put it back into the NSLP or SBP. So again, kind of a CDE request.
Yeah, I can take that one. Thank you for your question. So per USDA guidance, they do have in their share table policy memo a statement that says you can take the items that are left over on the share table at the end of meal service to be used in later meals that are claimed for reimbursement. So you can then, recirculate them within the NSLP, the SPB, as needed. We do always recommend you check with your local environmental health department just to make sure that you're compliant with, their food safety regulations in terms of reusing meal items, but it is allowable per USDA policy.
Do you know the management bulletin number? Because the last document I have doesn't show that.
Sure. Let me pull it up. I believe it's SP 41-2016. It's their kind of share table policy memo bulletin.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
All right, thanks, Mia. Next up, we have a question from Maria Corona with Scotts Valley Environmental Compliance. Unfortunately, it looks like Maria may have dropped off of the call, so I'll just go ahead and read the question. They're wondering who can create share tables, any teacher, or who has to initiate this practice?
I can take that one too. So typically with share tables, it kind of is a multi-stakeholder undertaking. So teachers might, advocate for share tables or really strongly suggest that they implement them at their school. But it really also takes a lot of coordination with the school food services because they're beholden to the food safety regulations, and they typically will set up share tables within kind of the food service area so that students can return the items from the line that they do not want to consume. So it might just take some additional conversations with school food service and administrative staff to implement those requirements. But teachers can definitely advocate for them and be a part of the conversation.
All right, thank you so much for answering that. Up next, we have a question from Xochitl Hernandez. Xochitl, you should be able to unmute and please ask us your question.
Thanks. Yeah, hi. My name is Xochitl. I'm with the Alameda County Community Food Bank. I just noticed within the CDE presentation, there was a bullet point that mentioned that schools were only permitted to donate excess food to a 501c3 entity. And I was just curious because there was the recently passed Food Donation Improvement Act that allowed for donation direct to client. And so I was just wondering how those two kind of coincide. And I see Casey asked the same question, I think, at the same time as me, as well as a question from Hugo below. So just curious about that.
Yeah, thank you, Xochitl. So as I kind of mentioned at the top of my presentation, all of the content is really related to the current policy guidance that is out there. As you stated, the Food Donation Act was recently updated, and CDE and USDA are aware that there were updates to that Donation Act. But as it stands right now, we are currently awaiting additional guidance or information from USDA as to whether or not that will modify any of the current guidance that is out there. So it's kind of TBD, but we are all aware that there were changes to the act. We just don't have any firm guidance as of yet.
So Casey Bartholomew, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if there's anything you would like to add or contribute to the conversation.
Hi, good afternoon. Casey Bartholomew from Stop Waste. Yeah, I had the same question as Xochitl. I think it's just, really encouraging the USDA and the CDE to think about the potential efficiency, food waste reduction opportunity, especially for more perishable foods that are coming out of our school communities. And it's so much easier and more efficient to directly donate those on site to students, after school programs, families picking up their children, and really reduce greenhouse gas emissions by avoiding that transportation and cold storage piece as well. So just wanted to advocate for that. And yeah, just interested in hearing updates, it sounds like, from the USDA on the policy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and like I said in my presentation, we'll keep our program operators apprised if there's, changes to guidance or additional guidance from USDA, especially concerning food donations or the Food Donation Act updates.
And Hugo Gregoire, if you would also like to make any further clarifications, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, you go with Stopwise, and no, +1 to Sophie and Casey. I look forward to hear from you all on any updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo.
Okay, we have a question from our very own Kara Morgan. For Mia, Kara, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure, happy to. Hey, Mia, thank you so much for being here. I wondered if you could share a little bit about, how you disseminate the information that you shared, like the bulletins to school districts, how often you do it. And then my thought is, I think it would be helpful for us at CalRecycle to let jurisdictions know about this, and that, you're getting the word out to school districts, we're getting the word out, and that they can help too. Thanks, Mia.
Yeah, sure, of course. So all of our kind of management bulletins, which are usually based off of USDA policy, live on our website, on our webpage. So those are all available for you to, use as guidance. The only time that we usually send out an announcement of those policy memos or policy updates is typically when something kind of new comes out. Then we have to, create a new bulletin for that and then announce it, usually via like a listserv blast. So it'll be kind of going to the staff that is identified within our kind of data management called CNIPS. I'm sure all the schools are familiar with it, kind of our data management tool, and it will then go out to that audience as a new announcement. So we typically, if it's something that is already existing on our website, we don't necessarily send out an email blast or a listserv regarding that content on a regular basis, but it is available. So if you want me to put together kind of a common resource item, I can do that for you guys to have links on CalRecycle, but we typically don't continually kind of send out updates regarding content that's already existing.
Thanks, Mia. That was super helpful. I think Ray and Michelle will follow up with you. I think there's a real opportunity, especially with 2024 around the corner and school districts having to implement their food recovery programs. Probably good timing. So we'll talk more about that. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, up next, we're going to take a question from Nader Sharegi. Nader, you should be able to unmute and ask us your question, please.
Yes, my question was with regards to schools dealing with edible food recovery requirements of the SB 1383. Are they responsible for inspection and reporting, or are the agencies like cities, counties, districts responsible for that?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. So the school districts are considered a local education agency, and the school districts are responsible for implementing an edible food recovery program starting in 2024. So, that means establishing a contract or agreement with food recovery organizations and services to recover, all of the edible food that can be safely recovered. The school district is responsible for having a copy of that agreement or agreements. The school district is responsible for maintaining the donation records. And the way that the regulations were written, it's the school district that is responsible for the program. Ideally the school district would be coordinating with, its kitchens and the various school sites, and creating that collaboration. So that's where the responsibility relies. The local jurisdictions are responsible for conducting the inspections. So school districts would be contacted by the local jurisdiction that's doing the inspection, and those would start sometime in 2024. Not necessarily an annual inspection. The jurisdictions can set up that frequency. The jurisdictions are going to be looking to see that the school district has implemented a program and has the necessary, contracts, agreements, and the donation records. I think, this is kind of new for all of us, food recovery. And so I expect in 2024, there's still going to be a need for a lot of education and still rolling out program implementation. If a school district is struggling to find a food recovery organization or service that can help them with recovering that food, I encourage school districts to reach out to their city or county contact. And we can also, if you, and maybe Michelle can follow up with this, if you send a question to us or comment, we can help make that connection. But that city or county is responsible for ensuring that there's adequate capacity so that there's food recovery organizations and services that can meet the needs of all of their food donors, not just school districts. And that's a lot of work that's currently happening to expand that food recovery infrastructure. So a lot going on there, but anytime you have a question, Michelle, do you want to pop on and share the best way for folks to connect with us?
Yes, if you have questions, send an email to schools@calrecycle.ca.gov, and we can help you with our land liaison to the city or county. And we also have a website that we can share that you can find all the contacts for a city or county, but feel free to email us at schools@calrecycle.ca.gov, and we'll be able to help you out.
Perfect. Thank you both. I think we have time for just one more question for this session. This will be from James Howard. It's for grades of green. James, you're unmuted. If you could state your name and affiliation, we'll get the question to Noel.
Yes. Hi. James Howard with Golden Valley Unified in Madera Ranchos, California. So I think a lot of this, and maybe I'm the only food service director that feels this way, but obviously the recycle program seems to have a lot of components and needs a lot of coordination between teachers, district administration, sites, staff administration at each site. I guess the question would be, what are some of the challenges that this program's faced up until this point, and getting it launched, getting it being sustainable, kind of a self-running program versus a food service director trying to run around and just kind of spin another plate at another site. And so what challenges have been kind of brought up and are the most frequent, and how are those faced and solved?
Yeah, thanks so much for your question, James. This is really important to talk about, especially because this is for local education agencies. The biggest challenge I think you have yourself identified is the coordination that needs to happen between all of these respective departments that typically are siloed because they don't have an ongoing sustainability committee or green committee designated to coordinate these issues. So kind of where Grades of Green has stepped in to fill that goal and that need is developing our Uplift District Coordination Program to kind of help liaise those situations and create that easy rapport between departments and really make it easy for folks to continuously check in and develop best practices throughout years of programmatic experience. Our programs have developed over 10 years of working with various schools, from large to small districts, from schools that have 16 schools to schools that have 2 schools. So a lot of those challenges come with different unique perspectives from those campuses. For example, if we're looking for food donations and we need someone that has to drive those donations from the school to the donation site, that's something we encounter frequently with food donations, as well as, the cadence of when the food is put on ice with our food regulation safety. So we work directly with campuses to tackle those unique goals. A lot of those solutions will be formations of different teams that are directly in conversation consistently about these issues so that we can make a consistent report about these issues as they are not going away. Another issue that we frequently encounter, our student body and our educators are enthusiastic and really take these programs under their wings. Some of our biggest struggles are kind of working with adults, surprisingly, to make these measures happen. So it's really onboarding and convincing campuses that climate change is a responsibility of every single role, that this needs to be thought of in your purchasing, in your, strategizing with your input users. Our custodial staff isn't the one that is going to be taking things out and sorting. It's really the education component that is missing between district coordinations, is not just signage, but having those programs and having that experiential learning opportunity. Often students and these end users learn by doing rather than by just seeing posters or hearing kind of a lecture by an educator. By really engaging them in that leadership process and by engaging all of the campus users in taking responsibility for their own waste and their own actions, that's kind of how we see this movement progress and become extremely sustainable, because there is this adoption of a campus culture and an expectation for every campus user to be involved and to take responsibility for their own actions. So thank you so much for also giving me the opportunity to talk about that at this meeting today, and for your question. I'm happy also to discuss further. I've put my email a couple places, but you can reach me there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Will. I think that's a good place to go ahead and stop and move to our next presenter from Oakland Unified. As a quick reminder, if we do not get to your question, please go ahead and submit it to the slcp.organics mailbox that is on the slide that's currently being shown. And we will have another Q&A session, so you will have another opportunity, but we want to be mindful of our participants' time as well. So with that, I'll pass it to Nancy.
Thanks, Ray.
Next slide.
Hello, everyone. So again, I'm Nancy Deming. I've been working with Oakland Unified School District for the past 14 years as their sustainability manager that's housed between custodial and nutrition services. So it's a unique shared position. The position is part-time, so this does allow me to work with a variety of other school districts and schools in the East Bay area. I am on the schools program team with Recycle Smart that serves Central Contra Costa County as well. There's a few different contracts and grant funding over the years to support other K-12 schools on waste prevention initiatives. So with this varied work, this does allow for a great amount of collaboration with different teams and a lot of cross-pollination that definitely improves the resources developed and curated best practices. So, you know, full disclosure, the resources that I'm sharing today are definitely from a large and amazing village. It's been an endeavor on creating these materials. So I just want to give much gratitude to all the wonderful folks that I get to work with over the years. And I know many of you are on the call now, so I give my appreciation for this collaboration. So I do appreciate CalRecycle asking me to share out today with you all. So we're going to briefly highlight what Oakland Unified has been doing just on general SB 1383 overview, and then with a focus on food donation. So prior to SB 1383 being in effect, we were already aiming to have its elements in place in all our schools and to be district-wide. But with SB 1383 coming into place, that definitely leveled things up. And we've added this into our messaging, training material, and conversations that we are working towards being in compliance with this mandate. With the mandate, I am sensitive and I strive to be strategic to how we use the messaging so it doesn't come off as overbearing or panicking staff, teachers, that sort of thing. The phrase I use often especially with our staff, especially with our custodians and nutrition services staff, is that we are doing our best to be in compliance with continuing to improve and expand. So next slide, please. So I'll be going over briefly on our different resources on the overall infrastructures so that we have more time to talk on food recovery focus. I do have the links to the resources shared in this deck and the notes so they can be accessed when the decks during this webinar get shared out. And you're also welcome to email me. My contact will be at the last slide and I can share it directly with you. So to start off with, I'll be showing some slides that we have in our launch slide deck that we share out to our school community so that they can work to get the program either relaunched or improve on their launch, that sort of thing. Next slide. So these are snapshots of the photos. So each school team wants to check on that they have covered for proper waste sorting station setups around their campus. We do have a 7-page waste sorting supply overview and ordering form that we provide to custodians. And we use this overview packet when we do school site visits to reference with the school team on the different areas to address and the different types of bins and signage typically used. It's really helpful having the photos and the signage so they can, you know, visualize what those size bins mean and what the stations should be looking like. Yeah, next slide, please. So in collaboration with our very engaged and strong partner Stop Waste, which is our county waste authority, we created this meal sorting station guide that has detailed out the specifics of each station stop and its best practices that we ask our schools to have in place. So this tool has been immensely invaluable. I carry this everywhere I go, especially when I'm doing site visits and, you know, referring to the school teams about what they should be striving to have, like catching any of the differences. A lot of our schools use this guide also kind of as a poster to have up to reference. Next slide. To help educate students and staff and to assist on getting the whole school on board at relatively the same time, we encourage schools to take advantage of our assemblies for elementary schools. And thanks again to our schools team at Stop Waste. They have this fabulous Wiggle E-worm. It's a tough thing to say sometimes. Wiggle E-worm costume that we borrow to use in our assemblies. Wiggly is definitely a kid and teacher highlight on our assemblies. Definitely encourage anybody to consider having a costume like this. You might not be able to tell, but that's me in the red. The hugs and the high fives. Sorry, I'm in a smart room, lights went off. The hugs, high fives, and crowd swarming that happens at the end of each assembly, which is very endearing and so awesome that Wiggly is treated like a rock star. Next slide, please. So we have created a series of waste sorting 101 videos for our different school audiences. With that, we also share out a video that Stop Waste created. It's a fun, engaging, cafeteria-focused video that was done at one of our Oakland schools. And then we are definitely a huge fan of Mr. Eco and his work and his videos. And if you don't know Sort Like Crazy by Mr. Eco, you got to check it out. It's my go-to uplifting song for the work that we do. It's a very catchy song. We do use that video, Sort Like Crazy, at the end of our assemblies. And prior to the video, we teach the kids all the dance moves and then have them get up and dance and get their wiggles out for fun closing of our assembly. Next slide, please. We have a variety of Kahoot games and plan to continue expanding and improving on them and encouraging teachers to do these with their students. So we know sorting details are not intuitive yet for folks, so having a layered approach on sorting review is ideal. We have played our middle high school training video. It's a 13-minute video. There's parts that seem fairly repetitive to me, especially on the plastic bag, flimsy plastic. But then when we play the Kahoot game right after, we realize that the plastic bag is still hanging up the students. And that comes out in that conversation when you're playing the game. So we're definitely trying to get a layered approach on the training and the education for our students. Next slide. So again, as mentioned, Stop Waste supports our schools directly. And through this, they do the 4th grade field trips, waste audits, thought partners, and more. And then as a reminder, these past slides are all a selection of what's in our launch slide deck for our school community to have readily accessible information on the program and resources. And so it's just a quick snapshot of how to improve, how to get their program up and running well. Okay, so now switching to other approaches on our program infrastructure. Next slide, please. And then if you want to just hit the tab a couple times. So we use this slide in particular in a lot of our staff overview slide decks for principals, for staff, remembering on what the mandated information is. And then next slide. We've taken that information and put it to a poster. We print that up in as 11 by 17 poster. And this we provide to all our custodians, so they have it posted up in their custodial offices reference as well. Next slide, please. So with all the elements, and especially for custodians that they have to cover and be mindful of and be tackling and be challenged with, I'm always looking for ways to ease the work for our custodians. The custodial budget is never enough to meet their needs. So with our direct dedicated funding that we have for waste prevention, I provide custodians with a variety of supplies to help them with the workload and their budgets. Our newest, I'm really excited about this one, especially getting them out to all our custodians start of next school year, that we tested out, is this dumpster lid prop. Custodians that tested it out absolutely loved it. It just helps, you know, on safety issues, their back strain, that sort of thing. And then encouraging the custodians to keep the lids closed so that we don't get rain or, you know, rodent issues in our dumpsters, and just to ease the workload for our custodians. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to go into the work we've been doing along the lines of food waste prevention with a focus on donation. So I do want to say up front that on the surface, it can seem easy to donate the surplus food, but it's typically not when dealing with all the variables that are involved. With a concentrated effort, we were successful just prior to the pandemic with the support of a partnership grant with Stop Waste and CalRecycle, and having a very driven and dynamic contractor supporting the efforts with us. It still was a challenge, but we were keeping at it and we were ramping up. With the impact of COVID on the loss of staff, staff being out sick, overworked, and the need to just meeting the basics of feeding our students, as well as us having 3 food service directors in the past 2 years, food donation has needed to be put on hold for the daily surplus at the individual schools, with the exception of one school that kept holding ground of their donation that they had prior to COVID. There also has been a roller coaster on working out details and counts of meal items for offering food to all our students. For Oakland, we do provide breakfast, lunch, and supper, with each one having its own system on how students receive the meals and options and challenges on collecting the surplus food. So there's a lot of complications for all those layers. So it does need to have direct ongoing attention to get food donation going, and even just kind of food waste prevention from back of the house. That requires a lot of follow through for each site, and at the same time ensuring that we're making sure that the kitchen ordering practices are efficient, that we are not over donating, especially in items we have not been able to claim for reimbursement. So next slide, please. Borrowing a slide from our partner Stop Waste that captures the steps involved, and if you do want to just kind of tap through those, great, thanks. Our priority is to have a tight running ship in our kitchen to ensure we are not wasting food in the first place. This involves the ordering, knowing what our students are wanting, tracking the surplus at school and at district level, and modify as needed and reserving wherever possible. There is a concern on just going direct to donation, that it doesn't fix the problem upstream and can also potentially lead to staff over ordering since it goes to donation. And we have experienced that with a few of our staff, just kind of shrugging their shoulders like, oh, well, it's going to donation. It's like, yeah, but we can't afford over ordering and not serving those meals to students and donating. That goes against our budget. Pre-COVID, and with the support of Stop Waste and a grant through them, and then a partner grant with Stop Waste and CalRecycle just prior to the pandemic, we had 10 schools with an active daily food donation program, and anticipating at the time that it was going to be an exponential increase, with the details worked out at participating schools. But then COVID hit, everything put on hold. That definitely was a, hard hit. But we definitely did appreciate having a food donation partner in place, dealing with the pandemic surplus that we had when we had to serve our students and families differently. Next slide, please. So once the lunch period is over, what happens to the food that is left on the food share table? So kitchen staff are able to record what's left, then separate and wash the items that are eligible for reserving during the next meal period, which include the whole and bitten fruits and open packages, fruits and vegetables, and shelf-stable items. Our reserving reduced a significant amount when we switched to outdoor eating, as the food service staff were not able to monitor the cart or the bins in the same manner or at all. Now that the cafeterias are being used more, reserving has started back up this school year. Everything else, particularly foods that need to be kept hot or cold temperatures, like milk and entrees, are the items that can be deemed for donation, as well as the surplus items from the kitchens that we can't save for the next day, or they're close to expiration or about to perish. Next slide, please. We created surplus logs for staff to fill out. We do now use Titan, that is an online ordering tracking system. So these forms won't be needed in the same way, but we will use a modified version, as the picture shows on the slide, with asking staff to do a tracking, like a pre-tracking on the surplus from the food share, so that we have a sense of the volume and the type of items, to see about reduction options, and then what would then be considered for donation as a last effort. Next slide, please. When the pandemic hit, having our food rescue org Dig Deep Farms in place from the work, our CalRecycle grant in partnership with Stop Waste, was a huge benefit. They were there on day one, picking up the surplus we could not get out to our students and students' families in time. When we were increasing our program a number of years ago, providing donatable surplus to our students and families, and an ideal approach for many schools. And we're hopeful and eager to see what guidance we get from USDA and CDE with the new Food Donation Act that recently passed. Next slide, please. During the CalRecycle grant term, we did develop a variety of tools and resources to assist in the process for food donation. Here are a few slides out of our procedure deck that were created to be a very clear and a photo step-by-step approach for our nutrition services to follow. Next slide, please. So refrigeration, so this is a challenge, definitely an area to address. Ideally, the volume is so low that extra refrigeration isn't needed and that there's space in the existing cold storage, or ideally donation is being given out right after that meal, like right after lunch. If you're using an existing refrigerator, it is really critical to make sure that every box, every rack, everything's really well labeled to ensure a partner doesn't accidentally take the wrong items. We've had that happen too. And that was like the next day's breakfast, which was devastating. So well-labeled items definitely is key. Having dedicated refrigerators makes it more convenient, but it is a challenge due to cost, space, and electricity loads. If volume is kept to a minimum, this helps significantly. As mentioned, if pickups are daily and right after lunch, this drastically reduces the need for cold storage space. If a partner is within close proximity to the school, this can also help to do routine pickups and saves on the driving and emissions that the truck would be putting out. Next slide, please. So our one persistent school, Joaquin Miller, who kept a hold of keeping their food donation program going when schools opened back up, have a wonderful student-led initiative on this. The students themselves manage the food share table, and they pack up and weigh all the items and prepare them for the food donation partner to pick up. With supply chain issues and some ordering glitches, our central kitchen had surplus over this past year and is a relief to be able to donate those items as they've come up. And then a few schools that had milk about to expire for holiday breaks that we were able to donate before going on break. Next slide. So with the work done during the 2 grant terms with Stop Waste and CalRecycle, there are guides and videos that Stop Waste led the creation of that can be referenced and used to help process on the food share and the donation details. Next slide, please. And then the Sharing the Table resource was created by Janet Whited and San Diego Unified, myself, and BioCycle, that USGBC put this new lens on it and has it available to download off of their website. It is a few years since it was created, but it still has lots of relevant information that frames out logistic details. Next slide, please. So what's next for us? So we do need to update our food donation agreement and aiming for it to be done before our board goes on summer break. Food donation agreements for schools tend to be much more involved than template agreements out there. So working out the needed details takes a team approach with our lawyer team for our district. For the past 2 years, we've been very fortunate to have an AmeriCorps fellow that has been a significant benefit in us getting farther along in our program and to be getting it district-wide. So for this next school year, we'll still host an AmeriCorps fellow that does the overall work, but really excited that we'll be having 2 fellows, one that's going to be focused on food donation and reusables for next year. And then with program consistency and contamination issues, right, you can put the bins out there, the signage, but a matter of what happens at the end of the day, it's really important to figure out the social infrastructure, that culture shift that needs to happen at the school. So we're pulling together like a support kit. So this will include student bin monitoring badges and posters, social media posts, recommendations for the individual schools for messaging out to their school community on this focus. And then we've started draft form on creating a few videos so that we can really highlight some of the cafeteria best practices that schools can consider and implement and test out in their cafeterias. Another one on what does contamination look like, and then a mini waste sorting 101 video. Our main videos, they're all between like 10 to 13 minutes. And so we're finding that it would be helpful if we had a 4 or 5 minute one. We did just start testing out a new station for our cafeterias to improve on the appearance and effectiveness of stations. Next slide, please, which shows a picture of it. So that has more of a fixture furniture style approach with this station. So we worked with MaxR for customized elements for this 3-bin station that includes the 2 matching end tables that are separate. We ordered 6 of these to test out, and we're looking forward to seeing about allocating funding to have this station set up in more of our cafeterias. And this shows our mini food share cart that we started using this school year for our cooking kitchens, since it is typically just fruits and veggies that are the options to put in the food share bin. Next slide, please. So this is one of our posters we made for our schools to help shift that culture change. And as we all know, to fight climate change, every day needs to be Earth Day. I appreciate the time to share. And as always, I'm happy to share resources, collaborate on elements, and talk over details as helpful to anyone. Anyone is welcome to email me for this deck that has many of the links to access the different resources and more. Thank you. And I hand it back to you, Ray. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. I think for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and go right from Nancy's presentation to San Francisco Unified's presenter, and we'll do a combined Q&A at the end to make sure we have time for that final presentation. So next slide. Yep, and no, that's perfect. Go back, and we'll go ahead and pass it to Katie.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katie Poyle. I'm the Executive Director of Facility Services for the San Francisco Unified School District. I'm going to launch us into a little bit of a peer share. So this is more of a interactive portion rather than me just talking at you. Let me give you a little bit about what we've done at SFUSD. I'm particularly going to be focusing on our custodial and frontline staff and how we've navigated and engaged them in this conversation. SFUSD launched a zero waste initiative actually in 2003. So we've been working for about 20 years on hitting an 85% diversion rate by 2025. We are on track to hit that. And it has been through a very strong collaboration, both with our waste management partner and the San Francisco Department of Environment, that we've been able to get this far. We have a dedicated zero waste coordinator position currently opening that I'm going to be hiring for if anybody's looking to hop over. We also provide professional development. We provide education similar to Oakland Unified. We provide assemblies and student education. We also provide staff education. We provide professional development opportunities and career growth for custodians, gardeners, landscapers, student nutrition workers. And we've managed to create a financial incentive for schools to comply with diversion rates. So I think someone mentioned earlier, how do you get the entire team on board? How do you get site administrators and district staff to buy into this and not just be in your own silo? We did it through money. So we renegotiated our waste management contract and we actually get discounts for higher diversion rates. We have a healthy competition between schools and we publish diversion rates at the end of the year. So schools are incentivized to hit higher diversion rates. We have additional resources that we implement for infrastructure. We also include our high schools in the development of that infrastructure. So we work with our woodworking shop at John O'Connell, and they are actually the ones who design and build our 3-stream waste bins. And then schools get to apply for them. They pick what colors they want based on their school colors. My department pays for it through a recycling fund that I set aside, and then we deliver them. So it's a really great partnership that gets students involved. And once they put their labor into it, they're more involved in it. Our focus for this portion is really going to be on how are we engaging our frontline staff. And so one of the things, I'm going to lob a couple questions out there, try to get some movement. I really do want to hear back from people on this call about what's been working and not working. I'm not sure if the Q&A feature is still operational. It is. So I'm going to throw a question out there. Please use the Q&A chat feature to add a comment, and then Ray will unmute you and we'll get a peer share going. So first, I'm interested in finding out how have you empowered your custodial staff to engage in the recycling process. At SFUSD, anytime we do a waste management audit at a school site and we do a walkthrough with the Department of Environment, our waste management vendor, and we always include the custodian so that we never make changes without the custodian present. They're the ones that know the layout of the school. They're the ones that know where kids drop things and where we need the bins the most. So I'm going to open it up to conversation. How have you empowered your custodial staff at K-12 schools?
Thanks, Katie. Nancy, is that something that you can share some insight on?
Definitely having them in the conversation when we're considering any changes or, implementing the program at their school, giving them a heads up first, like even with that new station we purchased, like we picked 6 sites carefully, gave them a heads up first, like full respect to the custodian, and then sharing out. Yeah, always getting their feedback. I remember a custodian once says like, I'm the guinea pig, aren't I? Like, yes, but much appreciation, you know, just trying to lift up their role.
We actually had a similar question from Kelly Verber. Kelly, if you'd like to ask your question on getting that engagement and what challenges and solutions you faced, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and state your name and affiliation and join the conversation.
Hi, yeah, I'm the food nutrition director at High Tech High. We're a district in Southern California. I was just wondering, like, about getting the ball rolling for all of this, like what people in the community are most engaged. Is it food nutrition services that is lifting this off the ground? Is it facilities, parent associations? You know, who are you guys getting to actually like go more so like into classrooms and provide that education, or like stand at the trash cans and educate kids on like which bins to actually put food in, and kind of just the experience of other schools and who have been the real leaders in that?
Yeah, that is a great question, and one that we are continuously navigating. We have found that putting the infrastructure in place first facilitates compliance. So if we have the infrastructure in place and we follow it with education, it's more likely to stick than if we start with education and then try to put infrastructure in. With our current contract for waste management, it's unusual in the fact that we have education and staff support built into our contract. So the facilities department, as the one who holds the waste management contract, we're the ones who navigate that. And so we connect the Department of Environment and our waste management provider in touch with the school site administration. And we do this by doing like a top 10 of our waste stream, our top 10 landfill users, basically. So when we audit, we determine who has the lowest diversion rate or who has the greatest waste stream. And then we meet with the administrator, we include the custodian, but it's our facilities department that manages that, that coordination. I hope that helps. I hope I answered.
And I think I would add on that it is ideal to have, it could be informal or formal, an adult grain team at each school, let alone the district. Because if the school doesn't, it's not anyone's main job, because there's not a job that everybody can manage all at the same time. So the custodian needs to do their part, students need to do their part, the teachers, food service team, the principal. So it's many players, and they all need to kind of be on the same page. So when we do site visits, we try to have as many of those folks at the table at the same time, or ideally kind of appointing a lead that's at the school that then would do that ongoing checking in with everybody to make sure things are operating smoothly, or as smooth as possible.
Yeah, thank you. One thing I forgot to mention there was we do have a zero waste champion program. And so every year we put out a notice to everybody that if you are interested in being a zero waste champion, either at your school site or an administrative site, we provide training and educational information, and then they're the point person for championing zero waste at their school. And that has been really successful.
Fantastic. It looks like Noel put something in the chat. Noel, would you like to go ahead and
Hi, yes, thank you. I basically am hearing forming green teams and district compliance teams and making all of those channels functional and working. We have step-by-step guides on how to form those green teams from a student level, from an educator level, and we also have a district compliance and sustainability team formation on a district level processes as well. So if that interests folks in this meeting, definitely reach out and schedule a meeting with me or check out our resources. Thanks.
And we had a suggestion from Veronica Cervantes. Veronica, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name, affiliation, and share your suggestion with the rest of us. I'll go ahead and share. The suggestion is that perhaps teachers can organize a short demonstration or rally of sorts along with the help of their local waste management teams, maybe before or after lunch, with the cooperation of their nutrition services teams. Good suggestion. Jennifer, it looks like you have had your hand up for a few minutes now. If you're still on, Jennifer Lutke. Nope. Let's see. We lost Jennifer. Emily Senna had a question on engagement of the school district facilities and maintenance personnel, in addition to those that are handling waste on campus. Emily, would you like to unmute yourself?
Sure. This is Emily Senna from Poway Unified School District in San Diego County. Kind of has already been addressed, I think, by this most recent presenter. So thank you. I'm just curious that I guess about the information flow from the agencies in California to the school districts and kind of who's expected to be in charge of the process. But it sounds like it's kind of district by district.
Well, I would say district by district, but then also different departments have different elements that they need to be responsible, because even like buildings and grounds or plumbing, they need to be on board as well, because they need to know what to put in the waste streams when they're going to the bin to toss things. So it is an entire district that has to get behind this and be educated.
I think the way it's come up for us at SF Unified is that we're the ones who manage the waste service and the waste bills. And so that's where you really see how much diversion it is and whether or not the food is going into the waste stream. So that's kind of where we've taken it on. But then it is a significant collaboration with buildings and grounds, with educational department and curriculum, the sustainability department, and the way that we've kind of gotten everybody on board and gotten everybody involved is one, incentivize people and give them all the resources that they need to do it, and then also make the financial and the values case, right? This is, we are all dedicated, or my school district is dedicated to combating climate change, and so this meets our district goals. And so it's something that is incorporated into our entire ethos. Okay, I'll lob another one out there. One of the things that has come up for us frequently is the additional workload on our staff, especially our custodial staff. With COVID or during COVID, many of our students were eating in the classroom. And to maintain this diversion rate, then we needed to start doing 3-stream waste bins in all the classrooms. We had an issue of that's just a lot of additional work for the custodian to now be emptying 3 different streams and taking it down to the dumpster. So we incentivize teachers to work with their students by placing additional rolling toters in the hallways and having the students actually empty the bins in the hallway toters. And then the custodians only needed to remove the toters from the hallway. It also was effective in minimizing the number of people that you're coming in contact with during COVID. We've also, because custodians are making more frequent trips to the dumpster, similar to Oakland Unified, we have implemented the dumpster props. We actually managed to pay for those through our ergonomics program, as it's an ADA compliance. And so we've been able to get different tools through that program for our custodial staff. One of the things we've also been able to turn the additional workload into is career development opportunities. So we're focused today on custodial, but this also impacts our student nutrition and our landscaping department. So one thing we've done is we are looking into purchasing a digester through a grant. And we're going to place that digester at a school site that has a kitchen on site. And so student nutrition workers will put the leftover food into the digester. Students will maintain the digester and operate it. And then the resulting compost will go into our landscape, to our landscape team, who will then distribute it out to our school gardens. So we're essentially trying to create a table to farm closed system, together with Quesa, who runs farmers markets in San Francisco. We are trying to reinvigorate our school garden at this particular school site so that we can have a closed loop system. This has provided enough work that we are now hiring an additional truck driver just to manage the green waste and compost that we're distributing to sites. And so in that way, we've been able to really encourage people that this is a good way to go, and we can develop skills, and we can develop career opportunities for people. So I'll throw it out again. If other people have other suggestions or questions about how they've navigated additional workload on their staff. Maybe
One thing that I'll mention just from working with custodial staff is that we've actually had positive feedback on their workloads as well, because with source reduction of materials, they're only using 8 bags of trash compared to the 27 bags before with all of the waste diversion practices that we're doing. So just to add another perspective here, although there is definitely concerns for ergonomics and union contracts and complying with what folks have signed up to do the job for, we have received actually, that positive input of our workload is less by mobilizing all of our users, by educating everyone, and reducing our source waste. So it's reducing funds, reducing efforts for our custodial staff. So that's just a peer share I wanted to share out with everyone as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our panelists, really. We are just about out of time. So if there is any other feedback, suggestions that you have, please go ahead and send them to our SLCP inbox, and we'll go ahead and get that information to the right person. So with that, I'll go ahead and just let Nancy know that there are so many kudos in our chat right now for your program and for just praise for your dumpster lid prop. They would love your slideshow. So if you could address some of those in the chat, maybe share those links that you mentioned in your slides, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Noelle. Kara Morgan, would you like to go ahead and close us out?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. This was a phenomenal chat today. I am so grateful to our presenters for the expertise that you shared with all of us. I learned so much, and I thought I knew all I could about school district waste diversion and edible food recovery. So I just got so many great ideas today. And I'm really excited to continue to build on those ideas and to help our school districts across the state to implement these important programs and contribute to our efforts to address climate change. I'm really looking forward to a future chat focused on school district programs. And so we'd love to hear what topics you would like us to cover in a future workshop. So please send your ideas to either the schools inbox at schools@calrecycle.ca.gov or to our SLCP inbox, and that address is on the screen. Love to hear your ideas. I would love to, for example, have Katie talk more about their contract with Waste Management, how they went about that, what that entailed. I'd love to hear more from Noelle about, examples of how they're dealing with getting support from school districts. Nancy has a wealth of information, and just all of our presenters and other presenters love to focus on, how do we tackle high schools and what are some of those important best management practices? So I would love to hear from all of you. As Christina shared early on, we would also love to develop more resources for school districts to help you. We would love to take some of the great materials, for example, that Katie and Noelle have and Nancy, and turn those into collateral materials that other school districts just pick up and run with it. So love to hear your ideas, want to continue this conversation, and we will be having another webinar in the future focused on our K-12 school districts that we also call local education agencies. So thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules today to be with us and share with us. And I thank you all for your time and for your efforts. Ray, thanks so much. Great job again. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.